everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the SaaS Session podcast. I'm Deepika Vani from Whatfix. I'm going to be the host for today's episode. To quickly introduce myself, I handle field activities at Whatfix, but due to the pandemic, I've moved completely virtual as well. And prior to this, I was working at Freshworks leading the India and APAC offline initiatives for the enterprise market. Great. So we have an amazing guest today, Anish Thambi, the head of field marketing at Automation Anywhere. For those who do not know what Automation Anywhere does, Automation Anywhere is a global enterprise RPA solution and platform that brings robotic process automation to industry worldwide. Automation Anywhere has also raised a whooping 840 million from investors like Salesforce Ventures, Goldman Sachs, SoftBank, Great, General Atlantic, and more. Anish, welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on our show today.
Thank you, Deepika. Pleasure to be part of the podcast.
Okay, so today we're going to be speaking about field marketing on our podcast. But before that, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and Automation Anywhere?
Absolutely. So thanks for the great introduction. I am Anish Thambi. I manage field marketing for Automation Anywhere in India. I've been in the role for the past 13 odd years. I've been part of services organizations. I've been fortunate enough to be part of SaaS companies in my previous two organizations, and it's been a great journey so far. In my current role at Automation Anywhere, I manage field marketing for Automation Anywhere in India, particularly. Field in the new normal, I would say it's a misnomer, so as to say. When people ask me now what does field mean, and I was like, okay, probably 3 months back it made sense. Now I'll have to think about what I call myself. But what I do at Automation Anywhere is we are a hyper growth startup. We are in the robotic process automation space. We call it the fourth industrial revolution, which is going to revolutionize the way work is going to happen, the future of work, like what computers did to us in the late 80s. The future generations would have robots that would help them do their jobs, mundane jobs, so as to say, and the evolution of what we do is going to change drastically. So great to be part of this journey, and exciting space for us to take this thought to our customers, talk about what automation can do for them and what the future of work lies.
Super interesting, Anish, to know about what Automation Anywhere does and the space that you are in, right? So it's interesting to know that you've been in this field marketing industry for over 10 years now. And can you just elaborate a little bit more on the journey and where did it actually start?
Yes. So for me, I graduated from Symbiosis Pune in the year 2007. I joined HCL Technologies as a management trainee. That was probably the place where I was Christine of sorts, right? It was HCL it has been the quintessential startup of the computer hardware industry, which started in the late 70s, and it had an amazing culture wherein to be a management trainee is like you put your hands into everything. And I started in the VLSI division, which is the chip design engineering part of the business that was there at HCL Technologies, and I used to manage pre-sales for them. And it was a very broad definition of pre-sales, wherein you do everything that is required to make the sale happen. And out of college, I had a lot of energy. Still, you don't want to do anything and everything that comes your way. And HCL gave me a great platform to do everything that I wanted to do. Starting from whether it needs to be client presentations, do you do marketing campaigns, you work with the delivery teams and sorts. So those 3.5 years where I would say the foundations of what I thought I would like to do in the future as you come out of college. And I think this is maybe so more in when I got out of college, we were at least a little not so sure about what you want to do. It was a time when the recession had just kicked in. There was a lot of industries that were falling apart. Not so much in India, but across the world. And given the sector we were in, we could see a lot of issues in terms of growth and what the future lies for different industries. And to me, because I got access to how businesses run, and I was like a single person kind of supporting my business unit to make those sales happen across the entire value chain. I got a glimpse of what it takes to run a business of sorts from an eye of a management trainee, so as to say. Then 3.5 odd years, I moved to a company called Akamai Technologies. I was actually amazed when I went to just go for the interview rounds, and the whole technology space and what it was doing to the internet and what it had the potential to do to the internet kind of just took me away. And I got a role to do this. That was my introduction to marketing, I would say, wherein from a pre-sales role where you tend to did everything, to move to a very defined space where you had a proposition for a particular segment and take it to the market. I worked in the UK region, I worked in Nordics, I also worked in APAC. So it gave me a lot of exposure in terms of how to address different markets, understand nuances of different countries, regions, verticals, kind of developed my aptitude or my appreciation towards how this buying journey happens across different region, countries, and organizations. And that is where I got my first chance to work in the core marketing domain, I would say. I started working in the customer marketing field at Akamai, wherein it was great to know how to upsell, cross-sell across different segments. Then I got an opportunity to head field marketing in Australia. So I went there. It was again a new experience, new region, new everything, and like my boss betted on me to take that up, and I went there and kind of set the field team there. We had a running business there in Australia, New Zealand. It was a great experience. I came back, and then I got an opportunity to head field in India. Then yeah, that was again an experience. Every region, country works very differently, and I think the reason field marketing was important because the nuances of the region, the nuances of a particular vertical, the buying journey of each region, country, vertical is so different that you need somebody to help manage it.
I definitely agree.
So that was my journey, and then I joined Pluralsight as the head of field marketing there. Pluralsight was an online learning company, again totally different. It was more consumerish in nature, gave me a lot of perspective of how consumers behave, the B2B journey versus the B2C journey. I kind of got a great sense of that. And then here at Automation, again a very high growth company. We like for me, double-digit growth was awesome at a point in time, and I joined Automation Anywhere, and anything less than 3 digits is like you're frowned upon. It's like you're thinking too small. And yeah, that was a big change for me. It has been learning. I've learned in different phases. I would say I put myself into difficult situations, wherein every time I put myself into those situations, I felt, what did I do to myself? And I grew out of it, and then I felt, oh, this is doable. Then I look for the next one. So that's been my journey so far.
That's great. Considering you've had like tons of experience in Akamai, and then you've moved to Pluralsight, and from there to Automation Anywhere, like a good gradual change, and especially in a hyper growth startup, right? Yeah. So considering this field marketing activities, what changed for you after COVID, like with Automation Anywhere? Considering I know Automation Anywhere does tons of field events across.
Yeah. So I'll give some perspective as to what field is supposed to do and why in some companies the quantum of activities is higher versus maybe lesser, and depending on a few parameters. Okay. So there are two aspects which will define how you go to market. One is the size of the market. The second thing is your business model to address that market. Now, every company that I've worked with had a different composition of these two parameters. So if you look at the size of the market, and I'll talk from a lens of Automation Anywhere right now, the size of the market is just anyone, everybody out there. Like the scope of automation technologies being involved to a 100-member company to like a 10 lakh member company is equal. And for us, that is potential. That's the potential of the market. So anybody and everybody out there can use automation technologies to help improve the quality of the work product that they're bringing to their market. So help improve productivity, help increase efficiencies, reduce errors, reduce the compliance issues associated with it, increase cash flows. Those are common parameters that can be absorbed by anybody in the market. So that's huge market potential. Second is the business model involved to help address that. Now, I mean, from a automation anywhere standpoint, we are a cloud-based solution. We are available for customers to buy things on the web. They can buy 1 licenses, 20 licenses, 22,000 licenses, whichever way they would want to. So the business model is tuned towards anybody and everybody out there. So when you look at what I am going to do, so the responsibility when I took up this role, the first thing I asked during my interview process was, which are the addressable market? And as much as I thought about the addressable market for automation anywhere, my view was limited to where I came from. And during my interview process, I realized that, okay, any vertical that you can possibly think about is your possible customer. There is a possible customer out there for your technology, and you have a business model to help support that. So all of a sudden, you just expand your view of the world in terms of your target addressable market from a myopic view to a really, really broad view. And that kind of implies in the number of activities that you do to help address that market. Because in a competitive, new hypergrowth startup wherein you're trying to define the market, right? As a market leader, we define what the robotic process automation or the intelligent automation market is going to be for the rest of the time. So we take that lead to say that, okay, anybody, any vertical, there is a use case, we define that use case, we bring it to the market. My job is to make sure that anybody and everybody out there knows about automation anywhere and understand that how this technology can help make their jobs or their processes or their companies a lot better, efficient, and productive. So that is where the scope of work is. Now, pre-COVID, that was a scenario, right? You have this, like the burst of energy to just go and just make sure that anybody out there is aware of this. What COVID did this was, it has kind of helped our radar go down from a 360-degree angle to say 65 or 90-degree angle right now. Wherein what we've done is we've identified customers, or we've kind of identified our ideal customer profile, looked at all our 4,000 customers, looked at customers who are best suited to use automation technology and have the best benefits, and then kind of rework our scope of outreach using that lens. So that is primarily what COVID has done. And I think we had this discussion earlier as well. I feel what COVID has done is we used to go after customers and prospects in different verticals because they were available to us in these field events, or they used to come to these events, activities to get knowledge, to understand what is there in the market, to understand what kind of progress has been made. Now, because of the lockdown and everybody being at home, the same audience is looking for the same kind of inputs. The only thing is the mode of delivery has changed. At least the marketing organization, the way it was structured, it's like you have digital trying to do a bunch of things, and you have this customer buying journey or customer information gathering journey, which is mapped through your digital, your physical, your sales touch points, your after sales delivery, right? You have this whole customer journey mapped out. Now, what COVID has done is a significant portion of your physical journey, which is already part of your customer journey, it's just become virtual. And for me, I think what we've done is just address the same points that we were addressing in a physical event or our roundtables or our physical touch points into a digital mode. And frankly, from what we do, nothing much has changed. How we are doing it has drastically changed. So that is my view on what COVID has done to us.
So digital world has completely changed our field marketing journey. So the mode of communication or the mode of knowledge sharing is completely changed. That's your stance on this.
I would say yes. See, we all consume that. Now, I'll give an example of our day-to-day life, right? Like, for example, when I used to go to work, uh, I had like an hour and a half long commute. Now, the mode in which I would get to know about what is happening in Bangalore, like I'm staying in Bangalore, is through the radio, right? You have your favorite channels. You normally, more often than not, browse through radio channels and see what's happening. Now that is totally out of the window, right? I don't remember the last time I heard the radio. Now that mode of communication, and I'm just trying to see if somebody was using radio as a mode of communication to convey to a TG, like say, like most of the people who are driving to work, what they would want to know, that has totally vanished. Now, does the need for me to have that information has changed? The answer is no. I still want to know what's happening around. The way I consume that information has drastically changed. So I think if you just extrapolate that into our world, the customers or the prospects need to know how technology is evolving, what is the different use cases, how can it help their businesses, how can they make better, efficient, productive, has not changed. The way they consume that information has changed. So uh, I'm not a big fan of the word digital per se, because it kind of brings a barrier. I feel wherever you're consuming your content from, if it is digital, it is digital. If it is physical, it is physical.
Physical.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So that's my view. Yeah.
Great. I mean, interesting to hear different perspectives, right? So during this particular paradigm shift that happened due to the pandemic, and what are the different activities that you drove as in automation anyway to create this particular demand or brand in Q2, this specific time when actually the lockdown started?
I'll give some perspective to this. We have a financial year which starts February, and this is the first year we're doing it. So in the month of February, we are all gung ho. Okay, we had a great year. How are we going to go in triple digits? What is the plan? And all of it, right? It's the month of February. We're like very enthusiastic. We had like big plans on what we're going to do. These are the sectors we're going to go after. This is our plan, right? This is the strategy for us to hit the goals that we have set for ourselves. 2 months down the line, and I would not even say 2 months down the line, like February is when we started. By the time it was March and we were still in the process of just ramping up everything that we're doing, is when this thing happened. And as much as we know or that this will affect the way things are, and we had planned out a bunch of activities around it, we kind of realized that we need to put a pause button on this. Mm-hmm. So when we hit pause, frankly, we all thought we're just going to just defer this for 2 months and just start all over again. That was the thought process. Initially, we never thought this is going to last longer. I personally, and I think many of us thought that, okay, if we are able to control this in India, we have had different viruses that hit us, but it never kind of went out of hand. So I thought maybe like a 40-day lockdown or a 2-month lockdown and everything will go back and we will go back to work and things will start. It is just going to be a 2-month delay into everything that we had planned. What we didn't realize, and we realized it through this thing, is like this is going to get extended over a period of time, and we need to plan. We need to have a plan B. So the plan B was, we thought, and we had a brainstorming session internally to assess exactly the same thing that I told you before. What is our audiences doing? Where are they getting their information from? What is their preferred mode to get an information? How would they like to go through their automation journey? What is it that they would like to hear? What are the different things that will help them move into their automation journey in terms of evaluating the product, in terms of doing a trial with a product, doing a proof of concept, and eventually see how it can benefit the entire organization? And can it be done virtually? And what it led to is we created at least three platforms which were not there before. I would not say that it were not there before. It were not there in the way it is currently there. We created a platform which is called as a Bot Vision series, which is kind of a customer knowledge sharing platform, wherein customers come and showcase their stories, tell about how automation has been helping them during this period, how they've been able to implement it, what are the do's, what are the don'ts, what they should do, how they should do, what are the things they should consider across different industries, which were like a huge hit. We never thought before doing this that, like, as much as in our events, right, what are we trying to showcase? We're trying to showcase this is our proposition, this is how we are trying to help you solve some of these problems, and this is one of our customers who had done this with us. Right? Normally that's kind of a platform. We just tilted the same thing about like the other way around. What we brought in was make our customers the centerpiece of our discussions with our prospects, help them understand their journey, help them understand how they evaluated the product, why did they evaluate the product, what did they gain out of it, what were the mistakes that they did, and if they were to do it all over again, how they would do it. As much as it sounds so simplistic and like what's the big deal about it, it was something that the customers were really looking forward to. And we had some of the largest webinars attendance even in these times in these platforms, where we were able to address the customer need. We had webinars where people had 80 questions, like 100 questions. We couldn't handle that in an hour and a half. Given that people were dealing with the pandemic as they go, and they thought automation was a great way to help solve some of their problems, we had some unique use cases which we brought it to the market. Customers as to how there are a lot of companies which are where it is necessary for them to go to the office. With the pandemic, nobody could go to the office. So we had this virtual digital workers who could log in, say, Anish, into their internal portals without even Anish going to the office, managing all of that. Now, the BPO industry was severely impacted. There are a lot of banking, financial, insurance companies which were severely impacted with this. And we were able to make that happen for our customers who already had that implemented, to have business as usual, despite everything else being disrupted. Now, that is a great story which we brought. The second thing which we figured out was customers want to know how this can be done remotely. We can't be in front of our customers. Like, implementing a solution requires a lot of people to be involved to make a solution. They wanted to know how we could do it remotely. We created a property wherein all we do is talk about implementation best practices for our customers. So it's a no nonsense, to the point. This is your problem statement. This is how you split your problem. This is what you need to do. A, B, C, D, E. And this is how some of our customers have been able to solve it. Now, if you ask me, if I am somebody who's trying to evaluate a solution to help solve that problem, I would be very keen to understand that, and in a form, in a size which is consumable. And I think that was the big learning. We pivoted very quickly into it. We trialed a few things across different segments, across the different buyer personas that we focus on. And it was a huge hit. Frankly, customer stories, customer talking through how they are dealing with the pandemic using automation solutions, and it created buzz on its own. And so much so that we did 2x of the numbers that we were supposed to do this quarter in the original plan, which was shockingly surprising for everybody, including me. So that's our story, I would say. The pandemic kind of pushed digital transformation into the agenda. A lot of jokes going around a bit on it, but I think what it brought to the fore is automation is one of the things that everybody really need to do in case this happens again, and if they need to continue doing business in this scenario. And we just, I would say it's a stroke of luck. We kind of use that to our advantage, giving real problem solving stories, which we had a great audience for.
Well, yes, it's fantastic to hear that you've made 2x your numbers, especially during this pandemic as well. Like, there's so much of drastic disruption that's happened in this marketing field. We've all started to wonder what's actually next for field marketing. So this is why I'm asking this particular question. Is I want to understand, is your Q3 and your Q4 is going to be demand focused or brand focused? Because as a company, we need to be empathetic towards our audience, and we're also trying to target, right? And we also want to build that sort of a relationship with them on a long term.
Absolutely. I have a couple of points on this, how it's going to look for the next 6 months. And the way to think about it is get yourself in your customers and your buyers' shoe and see if you were them, how would you evaluate your own company, your product solution, how valuable it is for it. And I think as marketers, that is the first thing we should do. We kind of assume we have a lot of tools at our disposal, right? Like we can do 20 things to help solve a problem. But the more important thing is for us to understand that in the current scenario, the most difficult thing to get from anybody is their attention. And that attention is so fragile that, like, just think about it. Even in our current workspace, right? Our phones are buzzing like half the time. We getting notifications from everywhere. We're getting emails. We have our family members around us who need our attention. There is so much going on around that if you're trying to convey a message, the attention span of that particular individual to what the message is going to be is just that tiny bit. Now, if you want to grab that attention, and to me, I will circle everything around that attention, you need to make it as compelling as possible. You have to make them feel that if they don't give that 10 minute or that 15 minute of their time, they're going to miss out on something. Now, I was just trying to research around what are the different trends around attention. How do you keep attention, right? The trick or some of the tips is there in our OTT platforms. Like, why is it that we find it so engaging? Why is it that we keep flipping from one topic to another topic or one movie to another movie? We need to learn a lot more about how audiences are behaving. My current boss calls it infotainment, right? Marketing is infotainment. We have to look at information that can be entertaining. If you can mix that both with your brand values and be empathetic, and I am in no way saying that you have to push anything down anybody's throat, because nobody's going to take it right now. What we have to do is we have to be very clear what is it that you mean as a brand to the customer in this scenario to help solve a very, very relevant problem which the customer is facing right now. And you need to be authentic enough to tell them that this is how I'm going to solve this problem. We have solved this problem for so and so customers, and we would really, really want you to talk to us as to how we can help you solve that problem of yours, which is painful. And if you can convey that to the customer, you will get their attention. You have them with you. You have to convey it in a way and form which they want to consume. So, for example, if you are able to create high quality video content, high quality, I would say, graphics, high quality, something that you're used to viewing in your OTT platform, be it a Netflix or a Hotstar or any of the other Amazon Prime, whichever ones that you like. And if you can take your cues from there and see that, okay, how can I get 20 minutes of attention from my customer prospect? The answer for your brand is right up there. For me, what I figured out is very high production quality, very high content quality, be authentic, be to the point, don't beat around the bush, and give the customer what they would get out of that 20 minutes that they are giving it to you. Because that 20 minutes that they are giving it to you, they are filled with 20 or 200 other options which they can do, like they're getting distracted with. And you need to make it worth their time. And I think if you can answer that question as a marketer, and you know that, okay, this 20 minutes is worth your time, and I know you're going to get something out of it, and this is something that you'll value, you are going to get your audience. That's point number one. Point number two, in terms of how it would change for us in terms of the coming 6 months, a year, we are going to become, and I would say it is a function of adaptability. Marketers will have to adapt to the new way how prospects are consuming your content. Like, there is no differentiation now. Everything that we consume is on the same screen, right? Like we see our emails on the same screen. We see our Insta feeds on the same screen. We see our podcast on the same screen, and we're so used to a particular user experience. You need to have the best quality content you can ever produce out there with the limitations that you have. I mean, obviously the pandemic has its limitation with production as well. So the next 6 months, we are all, I would not say we are all, but most of us will try to get into that tangent wherein we will become infotainers, wherein we will have our brand values mixed into it, depending on the brand, how easy you are, how tight you are, what is your brand messaging, and bring that in different forms. Like, people are consuming content on the web, they are consuming video, they are looking at online news channels, they are looking at, obviously everybody's on the news, they're looking at trusted source of information. Now, you need to be the trusted source. And how do you earn the trust of your prospect, of your customer, is by giving high quality content, authentic content, which I would say you would want to watch if you were on the other side. And I think that's the litmus test that we all need to go through over the next 3 to 6 months. The thing with Field was we could get unabridged attention of the audience. I would not say unabridged, people still had their phones and they were tricky, but they still had their physical presence. Now, you don't know what the customer is going through. And what I have realized is our consumption patterns is no longer live. I don't think people appreciate the fact that if you give them access to a good piece of content only live, they will appreciate if it is live because there is Q&A. But you have to give them that option that, like, we are all used to watching things when we want to, right? Like we watch our matches, or I'm not called for the match, we've been no matches anymore. You watch your sitcoms or your movies when you have to, right? You like the pause button, you're doing something, you won't go back to it. You need to give that kind of user experience to a B2B buyer. You will have your audience. You need to keep it short, to the point, give them value. And if you can check those boxes, we are good to it. And how do you deliver that experience is up to us. Like, I would say we have experimented with a lot of media houses currently, which we feel have a lot of credibility in terms of bringing the right message to the market. I think by next March is when we can probably say that, oh, I did these 10 things, 4 of them worked really well, 3 of them were waste of time, and we should never do these 2.
I know. But when you mentioned about this infotainment, you mentioned that as a marketer, we all need to be infotainers, right?
Yep.
Knowing about all of these different new models that you gave us, how sustainable will this model be? Like, will everyone be able to adapt to this? Because change is really hard. And now that we have to start getting used to it, probably for the next 6 months, say 8 months, how do you think this will pan out?
So change, it's the only constant. Right? It's a cliche. It's the only constant. It is difficult if you try to resist it, but it is very easy if you think that's the way it needs to be done. As in, like, what did I change? My presentation changed into a video. Like, I mean, my mode of communication has changed. Nothing much has changed, frankly. But again, from a skill standpoint, I feel most field marketers will have to develop video skills. When I say whether they use external agencies, their own thing, production quality. I would like to use the term production quality, because the closer you are to the best of production quality possible, the better engagement you will have with your audience. And I think as marketers, as much as we were so particular about, okay, this is the experience that I'm going to create on site. When the customer comes, they get a personalized package for themselves. They get in, they know we have face recognition IDs, we have seating managed for them, we had a particular menu managed for them. We created that experience for them on site, right? We're so used to doing that because we had the stage, we had the lights, we had the performance, we had presentations, we had all the things at our disposal, wherein you could play around with the senses of your audience. We need to think about how this can work in a digital environment. And as much as it is difficult to do, it's a new skill set to have. It is, if you think about it in the same way that you did in the physical way, it is not that difficult. The only thing you need to think about it is, if I had to do the same experience in a virtual environment, how would I do it? And then you will have this plethora of things that will come in front of you. And then you pick and choose the ones that suits you and your brand best. And then you just take that leap of faith, and learning happens there. I don't think you need to take a course. Nobody gave me a course on how to manage things digitally. I mean, you just know a few things, you apply it in a different form, and if you do a few things right, magic happens. I think it's just, the thing is this. There is a very interesting metric, and I would like to share this. There is a cost to pipeline. And if you look at typical SaaS companies, the cost of customer acquisition is the highest. More often than not, the cost of customer acquisition in a SaaS company is 1 year's revenue for that customer. So you ideally making money, if as a company you make money from a customer only if you keep them more than a year, which is astounding. I mean, like, if you think about it, like the amount of monies that are being invested to get a customer is so high that you can probably just think about it that way. If you're not acquiring enough customers, you're putting a lot of monies down the drain. So being cognizant of that, if you look at our field investments, the field is the most expensive investment you can make from a marketing standpoint, because the cost of pipe, the cost of lead, the cost of everything involved is just too high, because it is physical in nature. You have so many elements involved to make that thing work. If you look at the same mnemonics and try to build a digital infrastructure around it, you can really do magic. It's unbelievable what you can do with it, because all of a sudden you realize that you have like 10 hands with you. And that is what I have realized, frankly, because we never paid that much attention to what can be done digitally, because we're so engrossed into the logistics of everything that we're doing. The cost of lead drastically goes down. You create an exponential experience for your customers, and then the results are just too different. I would say, like I said, we did 2x of what we had planned for.
Wow. Okay. The main reason I asked this question is I've done field marketing right from the beginning. And for me to pivot this, initially it was a little hard, but I knew that was the new normal, right? And then we started picking up all these virtual roundtables, coffee sessions, and so on. So great. I mean, it was super informative, but right now we're going to like stop asking you questions about marketing. Like we'll now move on to a lightning round. I'll quickly ask you 3 questions and you can answer them.
Okay.
Great. All right. So what do you know about your work now that you wished you knew when you started it first?
Okay. I'll tell you this. Everybody thinks, and most people think, marketing is like, these guys are just having a gala time. It's a fun job. It is a fun job. People underestimate, and even I underestimated the amount of hard work it takes to pull something off. The number of elements involved to make something happen, and the probability of any of them failing at any given point in time is so high. I really never estimated the stress levels that are involved in this job, ever. I really never thought that it's going to be that stressful, because there is this interesting image that I had seen some time back. It talks about the front end design of anything and the back end design of the same thing. If you see that, the front end, it looks like all nice and glossy. In the back end, there are some 200 people trying to keep that the flyer up. So I think that is something that I realize now, how complicated it is. But it is very rewarding. I've realized this thing as well. It is very, very fulfilling, very rewarding, given the amount of hard work planning that you do. And when you see your product and it works, that is very, very fulfilling for me.
Great. So what did your biggest professional failure teach you?
So for me, failures have always been the greatest learning experience. Every time I felt, every time I've broken down in terms of what I thought would be possible, and this is going to change the world. And it has always taught me to become more resilient. And I have always thought that failure is a part of the journey. As much as during the earlier part of my career, I thought failures were like, okay, you can't be a failure. We are all culturally, we are very averse to failure. Failure is a bad word. But as I've seen over a period of time, if you don't fail, you don't learn. And for me, every failure has brought its own sense of learning. It has made me more mature. It has made me handle failure a lot better. And what failure teaches you is that it can be done better. Like it is just that you didn't think about a few things, and that is what caused the failure. And you just accumulate these learnings over a period of time and make less and less mistakes. And that is what I've learned. Frankly, I don't have any negative thoughts with failure.
I think the biggest point is it's definitely a learning, right? Like no matter there's a
If you
learning
don't
that
fail, you don't learn. I would say that it's yeah. It can be small failures. I mean, failure is defined by ourselves. I don't think anybody else decides
yes.
what failure is. We set these goals for ourselves, and if we don't meet them, we feel we have failed. That's why I personally feel you have to have this big, like, audacious goals, so that even if you fail, you'll still do better than what you would have done otherwise. So I think I kind of tackle it that way. But again,
Great.
yeah.
Now we'll move on to the last question, Anish. So what's the one thing that has helped you shorten your craft's learning curve?
Practice. There is no other way you can become better. I always feel like like the music is kind of a most difficult thing that at least, I mean, I'm trying to experiment with it. What it teaches you is you are only as good as your practice. Talent can only take you so far, and more often than not, talent is overrated to a sort. Talent plus hard work is a deadly combination, but it is all about how much effort that you put in. People say that somebody is able to solve a problem in 2 minutes because they've spent like 10 years trying to solve, or failed 2000 times trying to solve the same problem. That's the reason when they solve it in 2 minutes, everybody thinks they're a genius. I think for me, the way to learn a craft is by sheer practice. Be perseverant, be clear why you're doing it, and define an end goal, and just keep at it till you overcome it. Because it is very satisfying personally when you are able to do something which you initially thought wasn't possible, and the process kind of teaches you a lot more about yourself and the craft in the process. So that's been my views on that.
Yes, so practice is the key no matter what.
You lose touch. I always tell some of my teams, right, like I'm a very hands-on person. Like I do something, like if you're doing events and when you get onto a console, you have this kind of nervousness, right? Like it's like when you go on stage, you have this kind of this adrenaline rush that gets into it. And the way to handle that is just keep doing it again and again. That is how you calm your nerves. And I think this is the nature of our business. You always need to be on top of your game. You always have to respect the time of your customers and prospects. And to do that, practice is the only way. You have to be on top of your game. You have to be spot on as much as you possibly can.
Great, Anish. I think that's the end of your lightning questions as well. Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed the entire conversation, and it has been super insightful. I'm sure I have a lot of learning from this discussion as well. Thank you so much for taking the time for our podcast, Anish.
Thank you, Deepika. It was a pleasure.